We're talking about a silent killer in your business, your own team. We're not just talking about the obvious costs of a bad hire. We're talking about the slow, toxic bleed that happens when you have that wrong person on the bus, or even maybe the right person in the wrong seat.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Fitz and Franson Show. As usual, I'm Fitz.
And I'm Franson. And this is the show where we help you build a business that lasts without losing yourself in the process.
We said we were going to talk about the one thing that is quietly killing more contracting businesses than the economy, bad leads, and some of those price shoppers combined.
Yeah, we're talking about a silent killer in your business, your own team. We're not just talking about the obvious costs of a bad hire. We're talking about the slow, toxic bleed that happens when you have that wrong person on the bus, or even maybe, this has happened to me, the right person in the wrong seat.
Yeah, that's it right there. Exactly. So it's the crew that causes callbacks, the project manager who can't quite communicate. That's it right there. It's the salesperson who overpromises.
No.
May have seen that once or twice. Yeah. And the quiet resentment that builds when you, as the owner, feels that you have to do everything yourself. Today, we're going to show you how to stop the bleeding. We're going to give you a playbook to build a team that sticks, and more importantly, a team that becomes your single greatest growth advantage.
Yeah, like I said earlier, everyone does think about that hard cost of the bad hire, the recruiting fees. I got to tell you, I hate seeing an Indeed bill come through my inbox. The salary you maybe have paid somebody for a couple of months before you let them go. To be honest, that's chump change compared to the real cost.
It's a really great point, because the real cost is the job you lost because your project manager made a bad first impression, right? It's the 1-star review you got because your crew left a mess behind. It's that future superstar who quits after 6 months because your toxic top performer ran them off. These are the costs that don't just show up on a P&L. They're the ones that put you out of business. So, Franson, as we were discussing this topic today, I was reminded of a time as a leader when I went through this myself. I'll never forget this guy that we had on our team. For the safety of others, I'm going to call him Mike today, if that's okay. All right. So, most of us have had a Mike at some point. Mike was a phenomenal salesperson. One of those guys you would describe could sell ice to a snowman, right? He was far and away our best performer, top guy. He brought in tons of revenue, but he was an absolute cancer in the company. He treated the production team like they were his personal servants. He promised clients things that we just absolutely were never going to be able to deliver on. And he was creating a culture of sales above everybody else. And I probably kept him around for a year longer than I should have. And it was because I was addicted to the revenue that he was creating. Yeah. In that year that I let it last longer than it should have, we lost, I think it was 2 of our best production managers. Our callback rate went through the roof because of really the garbage that he was selling. And my stress was at a level 10. I mean, damn near a heart attack, if you will, right? The day that I finally made the decision to let him go, it was like the sun came out and the birds were chirping. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was like magic. Our profit actually went up over the next 6 months because our efficiency skyrocketed and the morale was all of a sudden back. Really what I realized, Jay, was that I was so busy focused on this rainmaker and what he was bringing in that I failed to realize that the whole house was flooding because he was around.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man, I have talked to dealers that they have similar stories to you. And so I know it's not comforting to hear, Fitz, but that is actually a pretty common story. Owners or managers protect the high performers because they're scared to lose the revenue, but they fail to calculate the massive hidden cost of the chaos and the turnover that person can create within the system. And your culture is defined by the worst behavior you're willing to tolerate, really. So if you're going to tolerate an A player, you're telling your real A players that they don't matter.
Yeah, it's a really great point. It's actually a really good, or it's a perfect transition, really. Franson, let's give our listeners here a really clear and actionable list based on this concept, right? So if you're listening, here are 5 things to never do when managing your team.
Yeah. Never tolerate a toxic high performer. Don't protect a top salesperson or installer who poisons your culture. The short term revenue is never worth the long term cost of losing your best people and damaging morale.
Yeah, well said. Number two on this list would be never assume they know your standards. Don't throw a new hire to the wolves. If you haven't clearly defined and trained them on your way of doing things, from cleanup to client communication, you're not allowed to be surprised when they don't meet your expectations.
Yeah, that's good. Number three, never make it all about the money. Don't create a culture where the only motivation is a paycheck. If you do, you'll attract mercenaries, not missionaries. People stay for vision, respect, and growth opportunities, not just a few extra bucks.
Honestly, the list could almost stop there. That's a good one, but we'll
Hmm.
keep going. Number four, never ignore the hidden costs. Don't just look at the salary when evaluating an employee's worth. Calculate the cost of callbacks and bad reviews and really that team turnover. The employee who costs you the least in salary might be the most expensive person on your payroll.
Yeah, that's good. Number five, never put a new hire with your fastest guy. This is maybe for some of you seems counterintuitive, but don't mistake speed for excellence. When training, pair new hires with your most methodical, professional, and culturally aligned team member, not just the one who gets the job done quickest. You're cloning habits, so clone the right ones.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's a great point. All right, Franson, I'm going to say something that might make people question me a little bit here, or maybe worse yet, ruffle some feathers. Our listeners, and better yet, maybe some of the clients that we work with, they need to stop trying to hire A players away from their competitors. It's, in my humble opinion, it's really a loser's game. It's a loser's mentality.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. That seems like a bold statement there, Fitz. Every business coach out there is telling you to only hire A players. So explain this to me.
Okay, well, let's think about it here for a second. First, if they're truly an A player, like absolutely they're not lying to you in any way, they're actually an A player, wouldn't it be safe to assume that their current boss or their current leader is doing everything they can to keep them happy or keep them on the team that they're on right now? Would you assume that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So right there, you're already starting off the relationship by potentially having to treat them differently than your current team. You might have to overpay them or provide them an added incentive to get them to leave. And right there, you're starting the relationship based off of money, not loyalty.
Mhm.
And second, to that point, you're not just hiring their skills, you're hiring their habits, and they may not be good habits. So you're bringing in someone else's culture, someone else's bad habits, someone else's shortcuts potentially, and you're likely paying a premium for the privilege of trying to deprogram them from the way we used to do it. You've heard that phrase before, I'm sure.
Yeah, the privilege of trying to deprogram. Okay, so you're inheriting a bunch of baggage basically, and you're telling your existing team who have been loyal to you most likely that they're not good enough, that you had to go outside to find a real pro.
Exactly. That's the message you're sending. The smartest contractors, at least the ones that I've been around, they're they're poaching talent, they're building it, right? They hire for character and attitude and they train for skill.
Yeah,
They're looking to create their own A players who are loyal, they're culturally aligned and they do things the right way. They do it your way. Look, the message here that I'm trying to send is stop playing the recruiting game and start playing the development game. Some really great minds out there that are preaching this, and I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm just trying to further that message. You'll save a
yeah.
fortune and you'll build a team that actually sticks.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I think that for a lot of our listeners, maybe I won't say a lot, but for some of our listeners, certainly there's going to be a crucial mindset shift that needs to happen here. So break it down a little bit for everybody with a simple do this, don't do that type of thing for hiring. So don't hunt for so called A players to poach. Instead, do identify people with high character and a great attitude. Don't hire for skills you can easily train. Do hire for qualities you can't. Integrity, work ethic, positive outlook. Funny enough, insert a little story here in the middle of our thing. Gary Vaynerchuk recently posted about, he goes, when was the last time I looked at a resume? 20 years ago. And he goes, when was the last time I called one of the references at the bottom of the resume? He's like, I've never called a reference. They're going to tell me that they're great. So
Mhm.
don't overpay to lure someone from a competitor. Do invest that money in training and developing your own loyal team.
That's an awesome point.
Don't import another company's culture and habits, but do build a strong, intentional culture and train new hires in your way. And last one is don't signal to your current team that they aren't good enough. Do instead create a path for your loyal employees to grow into A players themselves.
It's a good list, Jay. I like it.
Yeah, yeah. And it's simple to separate the two out. So we're building our own A players. We need a system. This is what we call a 90-day training playbook. It's pretty simple to understand and straightforward. It's not just about teaching someone, how to swing a hammer or how to walk into a customer home. It's about turning a new hire into a valuable long-term asset.
Yeah, look, it's pretty simple, and it's broken down into three simple 30-day phases, right? So month one is really designed, and it's all about culture and onboarding.
Yeah. And it's not just about filling out the paperwork. One, certainly you should be sitting down with the new hire and letting them hear the vision from you, either the general manager or the owner. Share with them why this company exists or what we as a company or an organization stand for. What are our non negotiables? I like that Sean Hilgart, there was a guest on here a couple weeks ago. He said, set out expectations, make them clear. They need to
Yeah.
understand the why before they even touch the what. And this is where you have that opportunity to set the standard.
Yeah, it's an important step. You just cannot skip this. It's
Mhm.
critical. So that leads into month two. And month two is where you start to get into the technical skills. In our example, Franson, it would be the Fitz and Franson way, right?
Mhm.
So in this example, we would pair them with our best senior team member, not our
Mhm.
fastest, but our best,
Uh,
right? The one who embodies our values. They learn the technical skills, but more importantly, they learn our process, how we protect a client's home, how we communicate with homeowners, how we clean up a job site. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to clone our best habits.
yeah. Yeah. And this isn't stuff to be rushed. That's a month worth of your time or
Mhm.
your trainer's time with them. So then we get to month three, and this is where the magic happens, really. We call it customer and commercial acumen. We start
Mhm.
training their eyes and their ears, how to spot an opportunity for an upsell without being pushy, or how to have a professional conversation with a homeowner that builds trust, how to ask for a review at the end of a job. I will say on the marketing side, how to take great pictures for the marketing team. How now we're turning every single crew member into a sales and marketing asset.
Yeah, we were talking about the episode earlier, Jay, and I was reminded of a previous organization I worked with, and we made it a point to have leaders from different departments be a part of this process where we were cross training. We wanted well rounded employees. And as the sales leader, I would sit in, and part of the process was to try to explain why we did this. And I would, share a story of an installer that I remembered from earlier in my career. This kid's name was Lee, and we had hired Lee with zero experience, and I thought it was a really great example of why this was important. Um, he had zero experience, like I said. He was just a good kid. He had a great attitude. He showed up early, looked you in the eye. He wasn't afraid to work. I mean, he worked his tail off. And we
Mhm.
put him through this 90-day system. And he really got it. In month three, he was out on a window job and he was going through the install. He happened to overhear this homeowner, this older lady, talking about her drafty door and how she didn't like sitting there in the wintertime because it was uncomfortable and it was her favorite place to sit in the house. And he said to her, well, Mrs. Jones, we'll call her, Mrs. Jones, we happen to install really nice energy efficient doors. When the project manager gets here, I can have him show you a picture of the door that we had just installed last week down the street. She said, oh, that would be great. And so project manager got there and showed her the picture of the door. And lo and behold, it was within her budget. And we had I think it was like a $10,000 upsale on the job. So
Amazing.
yeah, it's awesome. Here's the great part about it, right? So we get a more profitable job out of it. The salesperson
Mhm.
actually gets a bigger commission out of it, right? There's more to install, so the installers get more out of it as well too. It's a win-win-win all the way around. Even better than that, though, and I think that the moral of the story that I would share with all of these crews is we got a 5-star review that mentioned
Mhm.
nothing about the windows, nothing about the door. It
Yeah.
was, I don't know, as long as the screen could be. And it went on and on and on about this nice young man, Lee, on her job and how much he took care of her and her home and her needs, right? And that was
Mhm.
really the moral of the story. It It's the difference between having a laborer and an asset on your team. And that was the point of this 90-day process.
Yeah. Oh, those are the stories we love to hear, and really the stories that need to be shared more often. I think too often we have the horror stories to share. So this story perfectly illustrates the power of using this system. So everyone listening, let's make this super practical. We'll go through 5 tips that you could act on now to start building your own A-player factory.
Yeah, sounds good. So here's tip number one: schedule the owner vision meeting today, right? New hire walks in, schedule it right away. Block out that 1 hour on day one for every new hire. You, the owner, will personally walk them through the company's mission, visions, and non-negotiables, like your values.
Mhm.
Make it a mandatory, don't delegate this part of your process.
Yeah, that's good. And then identify your golden goose trainer. Who is that? Who is that person on your team who does embody your company culture and the quality standards that you hold? Might not be your fastest or even maybe most experienced, but identify them this week and officially make them your go-to trainer for new hires.
Yeah, it's a good one. Number three, create a simple our way checklist, something that's written down here. Shocking. I'm telling you, write stuff down again, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So look, it doesn't need to be a 100-page manual. It doesn't need to be, this crazy thick binder, but start with a one-page checklist for the standard job. Include items like introduce yourself to the homeowner, lay down protective floor coverings, perform a final walkthrough with a client, ask for a review, right? This is the beginning of like your official playbook, so to speak.
Yeah, and we talked about it earlier. Don't assume that your hires know the rules or the playbook, stuff like that. And so number 4 is a great one to reinforce number 3, which is role play. Role play a customer conversation. In week 3 of training or whenever this fits in, sit down with your new hire and role play a simple customer interaction. Pretend you're a curious homeowner and see how they handle basic questions, or pretend you're a disgruntled or frustrated homeowner and let them dialogue with you. It can be a short 15-minute exercise, can be more valuable than a week of like passive observation.
Yeah, you'd rather have them practice with you than with the customer, right? So it's important, right? So last one
Hmm.
here for you, number five, right? Implement spotted opportunity bonus, right? Just a small thing, doesn't have to be huge, but create a simple, immediate bonus for any team member who, just like Lee in the story, identifies an upsell opportunity that leads to a sale. This is a great thing. So why shouldn't they get a reward for it? It could be as simple as like a
Hmm.
$50 Amazon card, for example. It incentivizes your team to keep their eyes and ears open, tuning into the client and their needs. Your
Hmm.
entire crew, it can turn them into a revenue generating force.
And we had talked previously. I liked your story on your team. I think you said somebody got a jacket. It
Yeah.
doesn't need to be a gift card. It can be something gimmicky like a cheesy trophy
Yeah.
that cycles through the office, but some sort of award for sure. So anyway, the takeaway is simple. Stop blaming the market for your problems and start looking at your people. Your team should be your biggest strength and not your biggest headache.
Yeah, you know what? Better yet, Franson, if you find that your team is becoming or is your biggest headache, might be time to look in the mirror. Might be time to look at yourself, right? Did
Ouch.
you did you build them right? Did you build them the right way? Did you instill in them what you expect out of them, right? So look, build them up. Don't just buy them. Hire for attitude and train for skill. And for God's sake, have a system to do it, right? A
Yeah.
90-day plan to turn a new hire into a loyal, profitable part of your company.
Yeah. That right there is how you stop this silent killer. That's how you build a business that can scale.
Yeah. Well, Branson, I don't know that we can say it any better than that. So, for the listeners out there, those that have stuck with us this long, I'll say thanks for tuning in. And as always, if you can do us a favor and like, subscribe, ring wherever the bell is at this point. And
Yep.
if you know somebody who could use some of this help and advice, please pass it along and share it with your friends.
Yeah. And make sure you join us next time. You're not going to want to miss this one.
So, until next time, everybody, always a pleasure, Jay.
Yep.
Happy hunting, everybody.